Hello and welcome. You tune into Market Cafe. Good morning to everyone. I'm Ankita Saxena and with me is Kanishka Sarkar. And in the next half an hour, we'll take you through the top stories of around the world, what transpired globally overnight, and what are the cues you need to watch out for before starting today's trading session. But the biggest story of the day, the government of India has said that it has taken note of a statement by US President Donald Trump on bilateral trade. The government said it is studying its implications and reiterated that it is committed to the objective of protecting and promoting the welfare of farmers, entrepreneurs and MSMEs. Now, what transpired? US President Donald Trump has announced a 25% tariff on goods imported from India. That is going to be effective from 1st of August, along with an additional penalty for India's purchase of Russian oil, Russian energy and military equipment. Now, in a post on Truth Social, the president cited India's high tariffs and stringent non-monetary trade barriers as a reason for the move, stating, and I quote, "We have done relatively little business with them because the tariffs are far too high, amongst highest in the world." Now, Trump also criticized India's trade with Russia, particularly amid global calls to end the conflict in Ukraine. This decision comes as trade talks between the US and India remain unresolved, with sticking points around the agriculture and the dairy sectors. Now, India's officials still suggest that the tariffs may be temporary as negotiations continue, and with the US delegation expected in Delhi by late of August. Let's go across and listen in then to what Donald Trump really had to say about tariffs on India. Let's listen in.
India was the highest, or just about the highest, tariff nation in the world, and one of the highest, 100 points, 150 point percentages. So India was one of the highest in the world. They had won 175%, and higher than that. You know, there's another higher one is Canada. They've been charging our farmers 200%, 300%, 400% for years, and nobody did anything about it.
All right, so that's the latest word coming from US President Donald Trump about the US tariffs that have been imposed on India. And Sumita Karir has been tracking this story since the very beginning. She's now joining us with more perspective on what happened overnight and what it means for the US trade delegation visiting us next month. Now, are these meetings still on the table, Sumita?
Well, the big tariff bombshell has been announced. US President Donald Trump has announced a 25% tariffs on goods that are imported from India. That's effective August 1, alongside an additional penalty for India's purchase of Russian energy and military equipment. Now, remember, there was an expectation that perhaps a deal will be arrived at between the two sides before August 1, but that hasn't really happened. So this this post is coming from Donald Trump on Truth Social. Remember, agri, dairy and GM crops, sources say that these have remained the sticking points between the two sides. India has maintained that red lines along these sectors will not be crossed. In fact, in a post on Truth Social, the president has also cited India's high tariffs and stringent non-monetary trade barriers as reasons for the move. Now, as far as negotiations go, we're given to understand that a trade team from the United States is set to visit India on 25th of August. That's what sources are suggesting. In fact, Indian government has already announced a defense partnership with the United States a few days back when the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met with Pete Hegseth from the US's side, wherein both the sides agreed to firm up a 10-year framework to further expand defense and strategic ties. And earlier this year, India also planned to remove the % equalization levy, which is commonly referred to as the Google tax. So it remains to be seen where else could concessions be given from the Indian side, but definitely dairy, agri and GM crops, that is not going to get touched, given the fact that India has not opened up those sectors for any of the other trading partners with which we have done FTAs with. Now, will the deal have an additional component of energy partnership? As Donald Trump also commented on India's purchase of Russian energy, that remains to be seen. But Indian officials suggest that tariffs may be temporary as negotiations are still continuing. And like I said, a US delegation is expected to be in New Delhi by late August.
All right, that's Sumita. Thank you so much for joining us with those details. But let's go across to my colleague Prakash Priyadarshi, who's also joining us. Prakash, tell us, what's the government's stance and the call of action from here on?
See, this is something the government was clearly not expecting, considering the fact that India was actively engaged with the United States on concluding a fair trade agreement. In fact, there have been several rounds of discussions between both the parties, expecting some positive development. But the US president has made an announcement imposing 25% tariff along with penalty. Of course, it's surprising because both the parties have shown intentions. In fact, there have been several rounds of discussions. The US team is expected to be here in next a few days for the next round of discussion. So it's a bit surprising, but the government has come out with a very balanced statement where it says that India has taken a note of the US President's statement on bilateral trade. In fact, it is still studying its implications. Along with that, the government has also made it clear that India and the US have been engaged in negotiations on concluding a fair, balanced and mutually beneficial trade agreements over the last few months, and it is remain committed to that objective. So the government has made it very clear, very cautious statement. Along with that, the most significant part of this statement is that the government says that it gives utmost importance to protecting and promoting the welfare of farmers, entrepreneurs, and MSMEs. This is the area where the government has made it very clear that the all possible steps will be taken to protect the interest of protect your national interest, secure the welfare and interests of these sectors. It also shows that these are the area where consensus yet to be emerged. A very significant development coming in. The government has made it clear, very cautious statement. Along with that, the government has also made it in its intention that all possible steps will be taken to protect national interest. That will be very interesting to see as to what are the possible steps that the government would be taking. But at this point of time, the government has made it very clear that all possible steps will be taken to protect the national interest.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ECNow.